of what has occurred today on January 5th in the Cayo North by-election.
All right, good night to you, Marlene. Good night to viewers. We're here at the polling station. The second set of boxes are being taken to the IT vet. The first set has already gone with police escort. The rain is pouring, as you can see. Most of the crowd has already dispersed, heading over to the IT vet for the counting. It's been a long day, so as soon as we finish this report, we'll be heading over to the IT vet as well.
Looking at the events that has taken place today, let's just do a quick run through as to how things started in the morning at 7 o'clock when the polls were open, right throughout till it just closed a couple minutes ago.
Well, Marlene, we could probably start from before the polls opened. We did a drive-through around Cayo this morning. We passed by the PUP office and we passed by the UDP office. There was a lot of activity at the UDP office. People getting ready, taxis getting ready to pick up voters. A lot of flags, a lot of energy. When we went to the PUP office, there was nobody there, not even one person. I'm not sure if that is significant in the scheme of things, but that basically carried through into the early hours of the morning. When the polls opened at a little after 7 o'clock, it was all a sea of red. The UDP controlled the entire area, including in front of the polling area. The PUP was a much smaller crowd, a little farther down from the polling area. That continued throughout the day, actually, and the UDP, in essence, formed a wall behind where I'm standing, where voters would have to walk through to get to the entrance of the polling area. As you mentioned earlier, there were a lot of skirmishes, none out of the ordinary. I mean, just things we have seen before in a lot of elections. The two crowds ended up passionate. Later on in the morning, the PUP got in their people from across the country. We saw people from as far as Toledo, as far as Cayo, and they were all in trying to help. So both sides were energetic. Both sides had a lot of passion. There was some good-natured heckling and some not good-natured heckling. I think the most contention was when certain persons insisted on going into the line and campaigning, even when police kept telling them to stay out. How it happened is that the UDP would start it, and Alberto August in particular, and the mayor, John August, kept going in. So the PUP saw that, and then they sent in people. And that continued throughout the day, kept the police busy. They had to keep bringing out the people who went in illegally. In the end, I can tell you also that the police had to assign one officer specifically to Mayor August to keep him to his side of the area. But apart from that, apart from those skirmishes, there was nothing violent, and the peace was kept. At the end of the day, right before 6 o'clock, the GSU were brought in. Mark Flowers was here, and he managed to place everybody behind the ropes. And that is how it ended.
Mike, you're mentioning two of what were the very prominent issues taking place there, very closely linked to each other. The first was the issue of the 100-yard boundary that is typically in place, where the politicians and their respective camps are not allowed to come within that area to campaign. Why was it so difficult for the police department to be able to maintain these boundaries?
I think it was because of the exact area, because of the setting of the polling area. It's in a residential area, and 100 yards on all sides, it wouldn't have worked, because the streets are very narrow, and it wouldn't have worked. So early on, Superintendent Dinsdale Thompson tried to talk to both parties to tell them, listen, I won't hold you to the 100 yards, but can we please get along at 20 yards? That never worked.
So it was the good faith arrangement that didn't work out?
Yes.
Now, secondly, you mentioned the issues that we saw with both Alberto August and the mayor of that area, John August. We were informed during the reports that were happening throughout the day that Alberto August, the UDP chairman, was actually banned from the area. What led to that specific action?
Well, the exact thing that we were saying, that he kept going in and he insisted that he was a runner, and he kept going in and campaigning in the lines. And the police asked him over and over and over. I'm telling you, at least every 10, 15 minutes they would be walking in. So it was a continuous thing, and in the end, he was asked, you know what, just keep your distance, do not come in here again. When we checked over at Bully Tree, we were told by police there that they had the same instructions, that he was not to come in.
Okay, so let's move over to voter turnout. I know you're getting drenched there. Thank you for bearing with us.
Yes.
We're just trying to wrap up today's event before we move into the rest of the newscast. The voter turnout at 5 o'clock was a little bit over 50%. And I know we don't have the official 6 o'clock count. You have been speaking with some of the people on the ground there. Many, in fact, all of them were not willing to go on camera. But what were some of the reasons that prompted people to come out and vote?
Well, what we didn't want to do was force people to feel that they had to tell us who they voted for. So we had to ask the questions very carefully. Several of them answered corruption. Now, you know, that is a double-edged sword that people have used to criticize the PUP and the UDP. So in that case, we couldn't tell really who they voted for. Several of the persons mentioned infrastructure, but most of it was corruption.
Okay. Yes.
That was the main issue.
So that isn't a very good indicator, but it shows that they want to take action against what is taking place at this time. Now,
yes.
Just lastly, Mike, we know you have to head over to ITVET for the counting of the votes, but is there an estimated time as to when we can expect to get that announcement?
I would think that answer would be back very quickly. They're taking the second set of boxes, and then the counting will start at 8. I would say by maybe 10 o'clock, 10:30, we should have some indication of who is the winner.
All right, Mike, thank you very much.
But don't take my word for it. That is just what I believe from talking to people.
Oh, and we will stay through to the very end. We want to give you the opportunity to get out of the rain just for a bit. And, of course, hopefully we'll have enough voice for you at the end, because we need you to make the announcement of the winner at that time. Thank you very much, Mike and Renee, who have been working on the ground.
You're welcome, Marlene.